Welcome everyone to the May edition of our Q&A here. We are doing a deep dive on customizing your client portal. This is kind of the second iteration of this back to the basics little mini series that we're doing. In case you are new to our Q&As and who we are Hughes and Strong Consulting. Erica out in Colorado. I'm Jody Strong here in North Carolina, and we started HSC because we both get really nerdy about systems and processes and just about anything that's going to help make the lives of bookkeepers and accountants a little bit easier. We fully understand that everybody's business and their goals within their business are different. So we kind of specialize in building out systems that are best suited for you, the unique firm in front of us, because everybody's path is a little bit different. There's no one size fits all. And with that, you will hear a lot of ideas from us, a lot of use cases of how other people might be using Keeper or might be doing things in their business. And all of these ideas are here for inspiration only. We are never going to say you should do something. Everything is an opportunity. It could be done if you want to. So we just ask, please, please don't put extra pressure on yourself based on the information that you hear. And Erica's favorite thing is don't should on yourself. We definitely don't want that. So no added pressure, just lots of ideas and inspiration. Take from this what you will. It's kind of like a buffet. Put on your plate whatever you think might be helpful for you in this season of business that you're in. And as we
Absolutely.
go through these sides, our little deep dive here in the beginning, uh, we'll get into that. Feel free to ask your questions. Drop them into the chat at any point. We will circle back at the end to make sure that we cover and answer every question. So don't hesitate to drop that in the chat as we go.
Yep, absolutely. So, like Jody mentioned, our deep dive today is going to be on customizing the client portal. So, we're going to talk about how you can customize it, what is customizable, right? What you can actually adjust. And then we'll also cover some of our favorite like time saving features just to make sure adding a client portal or using Keeper's portal does not mean that that becomes your full-time job. So, that's what we'll cover today. The rest of the call will be open for Q&A. So, like Jody mentioned, throw in questions as they come up as we're going through the deep dive, but we will open it up to anything past that. So this call is not only specifically on client portal. If that's where everybody's questions are, man, we're going to follow it. But if there are questions about, hey, I just saw sign-offs came out, let's like explore that, or what's the best use case for this, or I'm just getting started with Keeper, where do I start? This is an open call where we're just going to be brainstorming buddies with you. So we'll start on the client portal and then we will go from there.
So first up, what does a client portal even look like? Especially if you're new to this, a default client portal, just what comes inherent with the system will look a little bit like this. It does have the Keeper branding colors and that kind of thing. Very simple. It has all the tabs for communication between you and your clients. So a dashboard, the transaction questions, non-transaction questions, a space for them to ask you questions, a resources tab, and files if you are enabling that for them. This is a little preview of what a customized portal looks like. So you've got your default and one that looks a little bit more customized here. So let's dive into ways that you can customize your portal. The first stop is those client or the announcements. And we do have several different options for announcements. When it comes to announcements, these are going to be firm wide. That means that you set them at the practice level, the firm level, and it's going to be the same for every client. So this example here is the one that's on the login page. So when you have the announcements enabled and you have one filled out, it's going to put it off to the side here on that login page. And you can see over here what the login options are as well.
Yep, absolutely. So just to reiterate, we want to keep that one a little bit more generalized. So this may be a great spot for just a quick welcome or how to reach out to you if you're having trouble logging into the portal, a quick video on how to log in, or just mention of the app. Those are pretty common on what you may introduce on this announcement, because sometimes it's hard when you're like, okay, I know that's possible, but like, what do I put there? So a couple examples on this page just to help people actually get into the portal, and then we can give them further instructions once they log in.
Yep, great addition there. Thank you. And then once they are logged in on the client portal dashboard, you have another space for announcements. Again, if you turn it on. And this is where you can put a lot of different information as well. Same thing here. It is going to be firm wide. The exact same thing will show for every client. So we do have a couple of examples here. One is encouraging them to check out the resources tab, where there might be more client specific details and nuances for them specifically on that one. And then maybe a how to reach me, a quick way to do that, or just a thank you for visiting. This is also something that you can update seasonally. So if there's a, hey, don't forget it's time to file your taxes, or it's, a quarterly reminder or an annual reminder, anything like that, you can always come in and update this as frequently as you'd like to send them an announcement and draw their attention to something that needs to be reviewed or looked into.
Absolutely. And just remember that this is also firm wide. We'll get into some of those client specifics here in a minute, but this is again like, what would I want anybody logging into the portal to know? Jody mentioned some seasonal. One other tip or trick that I've seen as well is putting, if there's a week that your entire office is out for summer break, or you guys have extended hours, or you guys have more limited hours, summer versus winter, these are all good things to just kind of give clients context about this so that there's less questions. And again, this shows up on the dashboard when you first log into Keeper. So it can be a really nice like landing spot for some info that's a little bit more generalized.
And then we get into the space where you can customize more. So this is going to be the resources tab on the client portal. So the announcement we just talked about, that's on the dashboard when they first log in. This one is a tab that they have to click on to bring this up. It does have rich text formatting, so you can break it up. You can do a lot of things in here to make it easy for them to read or draw their attention quickly to a specific thing. In here as well, you can come in and update it as often as you need to. Some common things that we've seen in this area might be links to shared documents. If there's something that you and your client both work in, this could be a go-to place to find that link so they don't have to look for it elsewhere or repeatedly ask you, hey, can you resend me the link to that specific file? It's also one where you can put in other special things. We've got down here an example for North Carolina clients that I have where we have to file quarterly sales tax. It has the link to the DOR right there. Maybe the annual report that's always due. And it's just an easy way for them to navigate to those pages so they don't have to hunt for it as well.
Exactly. And like Jody mentioned, this is also a rich text. So if there's a screenshot that you want to put in as a little bit of a reminder or something like that, you absolutely can. So this is pretty flexible. And Gina actually asked a really great question. This is client specific. So this is where we can really get into the nuance. And I like to think about this as a, what are the common questions that I may get an email about of like, hey, can't find that link again, or hey, what do I do for the like filing sales tax again? I can't remember. So just making this as a, essentially everything's going to be here in the portal. If I have a question, if you have a question, if we need to be able to refer to something, let's make this an easy landing spot for everything that you're going to need during our time together.
And a little bonus tip for the resources tab is that we do have templates available for resources. So in your template manager, you can click on the resources tab there and you can create templates. So this way it creates consistency across your clients, which is more for you than it is for them. For them, they're seeing one page, but this can help make it easy so you don't have to go back and go, wait, what did I put on so and so's page? I need to remember to put that on this other client's page. And you can flag yourself to say, okay, this is where I need to add the customization for this specific client. So you can create these templates to make it easier to drop in to the client and then customize away once it's on that client's portal, and you can make it very specific to them there.
Exactly. And this just gives you, just like we use templates for everything else to get consistency, this is a really good way to kind of like use this as a brain dumping and kind of exploratory. What do I want the resources tab to typically feel like and look like? What are the things I may want to include? And then we can easily like highlight spots that we want to customize for a client or make a duplicate. So if we have that variation of like, hey, here's just a general client, and then here's what I want for my North Carolina clients, let's take what you already built out and just make a variation that includes some additional info for receipts clients or for North Carolina clients or whatever that use case might be for you.
All right, another way that you can customize your portal is with question tags. So here are two different examples of how you might use that. One is by urgency, so flagging things as high priority, mid priority, low priority, or by the type of question it is. These are statements. These are all for onboarding, um, tax related, payroll related. You can build out whatever's going to best suit you and your clients here. The great thing about this is it helps your client and you to be able to sort and filter your non-transaction question list. So it's really common for that non-transaction question section to become overwhelming, especially if a client is behind on answering them and they're coming in and like, oh, I've got to catch up now. You can show them how they can filter, they can sort for those types of things so that they can, okay, let me just focus on all my statements. And then let me just focus on all my tax questions. So using these tags is a great way to customize the portal to how it's going to work best for you and your clients.
Yep. And this is one, and Tara, I do see your question. So we'll cover like how do we look at that client specific side to know what it's going to look like and feel like for clients? And then how do we actually filter? We'll do a demo section at the very end. So just wanted to put that mention in here because that is one of the questions that comes up, right? Of like, okay, but what does this look like or how do you filter? So we'll cover that here shortly. But one mention on this is this high priority side is something we've just seen starting to kind of bubble up in the community, which I think is a really good example of ways that you can kind of play with and make the portal your own. Because if you are having clients that in that big list of questions, they're answering the questions I don't need right now, but they're skipping the ones that I really do need, and I'm getting behind on work and stuff like that. Maybe that's when you start implementing a high priority star or tag or something like that to kind of add some ways for your client to know what they need to answer. So again, lots of inspo here, and we can definitely go into more questions about what tags do you suggest or anything like that here in a little bit.
Absolutely. And our last slide about customizing is the branding tab. So in your practice settings, under your client portal page, there is a branding tab. If you are not seeing this tab, it's because you have a standard account, because this branding page is a premium feature. But if you do have the premium account with Keeper, then you do have these added options of adding your own logo. You can customize the color palette for the portal, and just enhance it a little bit more to personalize it to your firm and kind of have that white labeling instead of it being branded by Keeper. Now, before we dive into the demo and start showing the real case things, we wanted to share our top 3 time-saving features when it comes to Client Portal. I
So
do
this
think this is
is,
our number one.
yeah, I think overarchingly, this is one that we'll shout from the rooftops every chance we get, simply because it's such a game changer. So if you are in on your client page and you go to portal and you're in there messing with the contacts or you can see them, there's like this tiny little eyeball that I think all of us have probably seen, but maybe not clicked on or really interacted with. But this is a way to preview exactly what your clients are going to see. So I am one of those who is on sales and CSM and like customer success most of my day. So there's inevitably questions that come up about, hey, it says I have questions in here, but I can't find them. Where am I supposed to go? Or I'm usually the one doing our client kickoffs and stuff like that. So this is one that I keep in my back pocket all the time for answering client questions or shooting them a screenshot or showing them where to go. It can also be really helpful during onboarding to even just double check, is everything looking the way I want it to? Does this resources tab look okay? If I have one contact that we don't want them to be able to see files, is that showing up properly? That sort of thing. So this is one that is specific to each individual line and contact, which allows you to go in and see, like in this case, Connie's client portal and what they're going to see versus Dusty's, right? So you can kind of play around with that preview, but it's so helpful. I cannot tell you how many screenshots I've taken just of this preview to be able to send to a client and highlight something, just so you don't have to add yourself to the portal, log in, just to be able to show their view.
Yes, and we are definitely going to dive deeper into this when we open up the demo in just a minute. Because yes, we could talk all day on just this preview and how amazing it is. But let's talk about the other two real quick, and then we'll open up the demo. The next one is automating follow-up reminders. Keeper has this built in so that if there are any unanswered questions lingering in the client portal, you can have an automation working in the background to remind your client and point them back to the client portal. This way, you don't have to remember and go, oh, they still haven't answered these. Let me send them another message. And then it just takes something off of your plate. Let the automation work. It again, it will only send the automations if, or the notifications, if there are unanswered questions. So if your client is on it, they've answered everything, then they will not get reminders until there's additional questions added to the portal that they need to answer.
And I think this is one of our favorites because there's always a use case where you may need to send a manual follow up, or I just dumped a whole lot of questions and my reminder isn't going out until next Monday or something like that, right? So there is times that we're going to send those manual. But
Absolutely.
getting to take that off of your plate and being like, okay, first thing I do every single day is go in and send follow-ups if it's 3 days late or something like that, just takes a whole heck of a lot off of your plate without worrying that you're going to bombard your client. Because again, it will only go out if you have questions open. And if everybody's caught up, you're not going to get the continual Friday reminder to go in there and update questions if there's none in there. So I love that this takes a little bit off of our plate and at least at bare minimum means that our clients are still get reminded so that those questions don't pile up as much, because that can be really overwhelming and that can be the thing that makes or breaks the client portal for our clients is if they have that reminder sequence to help them go through and answer questions so there's not 150 when they log in next time.
Absolutely. And then our last time-saving feature that we absolutely love are the recurring questions. This is an added feature within the client portal so that you can, again, set up an automation, the things that you ask your client for on a regular basis. These are over and over again. It'll always be that way. A most popular one would be monthly statements. For those accounts that you don't have access to, you've got to ask the client every month to get those statements. You can set up this reoccurring question so it drops into the portal on the day and at the frequency that you want, whether that's monthly, biweekly, every 3 months, like whatever it might be. You can request these things from them automatically. Um, and it's just a great way to save time to where you don't, again, takes it off of your plate. Like, let's make the load a little bit lighter. We've got a lot of examples here of how these can be used. Again, payroll timesheets, inventory counts, cash on hand. There's so many different ways that you can utilize the recurring questions. Again, this is not going to be for those one-off questions or unique things that you don't have to ask very frequently, but anything that you ask on some type of recurring basis, even if it's an annual thing. You can utilize these so that you don't have to remember to do it manually.
And again, this specifically is one of those that is client specific. So this is not the
Yes.
one that you have to worry about, hey, well, I do payroll for this client, but I don't do it for this, and I need inventory for this one over here, but not for this one. These are ones that we can set. Again, I like to think about it as, what am I gonna have to ask? And especially in busy seasons, or I forget it's Friday and it's payroll day or anything like that, like that's not the time that I want to miss asking a question and put ourselves at risk for having ripples because I didn't ask the question in time, then my client was late, then I was late. Like it just ripples. So this is one that we can get as specific as we need to, and even create multiple questions for monthly statements. So if I need 3 different statements, let's add 3 different questions so that if somebody gets to 2 of them, but not the third, we're still good, and that reminder can help prompt that. So very, very flexible here. This is also one to be really careful with that should, and maybe reframe as a could, because starting with monthly statements, huge load off your plate. If you want to go further and have the bandwidth to add more of your annual questions or add those quarterly questions, awesome. But even just getting some of our monthly or like our payroll timesheets or something like that is a huge step forward. Jody, you're muted there, friend.
I'm muted. Yes.
There we
Now
go.
it's time for the demo. And so get those questions in there. We will go ahead and switch over to the demo account and kind of highlight where you can find some of these things. So can you see the demo
Exactly.
okay?
Yep, see demo
All right.
okay, and then I've got our questions queued up, so let me know when
Okay.
you're
Do you want to go
ready.
ahead and start in, or do you want me to show the preview first?
Mm, let's go ahead and show the preview first, because that's
Okay.
actually our first question. So we'll make sure that
Well,
that
that
goes
works
comfortable
out
for everybody.
perfectly.
Exactly.
All right. So from our client page, from the portal, again, this is going to be your portal settings tab here. If you have a contact added in, you can click on this little eyeball to preview that. So you'll see we have 2 different client contacts, one with files and financial access, one without. So when we look at these previews, you're going to see the difference between them because the preview is specific to that contact. So we'll look at this one first. And here you can see um, this is our demo account. There's a lot in this one. But we've got all of our tabs here at the top. You've got your notification, like action required bars, the place where they can drag and drop files. You can see all these things. If they have tax, that's in there. Here's that client portal announcement that we were talking about. This is the one that is on the dashboard. It's firm wide. So this is the one that every client will see. And then this contact has access to financial reports. So that is visible here. And files is also visible here because this contact has it selected. Now, if we go back and look at the one that does not have those turned on, you are not going to see that tab and you are not going to see the block for those financials. If you are using this while you're talking to your clients to show them how it works, you can tab through and show them these are the different tabs. This is what this looks like. You can click here to upload. Now you'll notice that some errors will show up. So the things that you're not able to actively do, it'll let you know that you're in preview mode. You won't be able to upload from preview mode, but your client will be able to, of course, but you can show them exactly what things are going to look like for them, and how to filter down their questions based on the tag. That was another thing that we had talked about that you could show. Um, yeah, here's the resources tab that is client specific.
Yep, and that way you can
And that's
double
your
check,
preview.
hey, does the formatting look the way I anticipate it to? That sort of thing. But Gila, hopefully that gives you a little bit of context as well. So main differences between that preview and actually logging in, or where that difference is going to be, is we can see all of the tabs and navigate to. The biggest differences are going to be that we cannot answer, we can't view files, and we can't toggle between businesses. So Those are a couple of things just to note because this is oh, we can actually show what that's going to look like. I
You
was
can
wrong
toggle.
there. Hey, hey. I love when I learn something new. Okay, so you can show how to toggle between businesses. We can show like what looking at the files or what answering is going to look like, but that's what we're going to start seeing flags on because this is just essentially think about it like a screenshot of what's going on in the portal. We can't actually take action. So but that does mean that we're going to be able to like show the different tabs and interact with them and even show a live preview. So this can also be helpful if, let's say in transaction questions, I'm seeing one on my end, but my client shows a screenshot where there's none and they're like, I can't find any questions. I can go in and kind of reconcile the differences and see what's going on here and that sort of thing. So massively helpful here.
And if there are attachments, you can open them to see them. You just can't upload new ones or click on it to do that in the preview mode. So this is very cool. What other questions do we have about the preview?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one is less about the preview, but still on client portal. So Rochelle, yes, we can only add one tag per question. At this point in time, Jody, that's correct, right? No recent updates
Correct.
that I missed. Okay. And
Correct.
those tags are for non-transaction questions. Okay, so really, really being careful about that. But one thing that's kind of interesting now with that 2.0 rollout for the client portal is we do have a subject line as well. So that may be something that you play with if you can only add one tag, but you do still want to add some context. Like maybe the use case is we want to be able to use that high priority star, but we still want it to be clear that this is a statement question. Then that's when I would play with the priority tag and use the subject as statement, something like that. So there's ways that you can kind of mix and match those two, but you're absolutely correct, Rochelle, that one tag per question. Love that demo there, Jody. Thank you. Awesome. And then next up, Debbie's got a great question. So
Mm.
clients say that they can't figure out how to go back and edit a response. They accidentally hit enter, which posts the question, but how do they go back and edit? So, Jody, will you take the first crack at this one?
Yeah, I'm trying to get in here to show like, okay, here's an answered one that a client might see. Oh, I might need to log into the portal to show from the client's side, but they can come over here to answered and they can continue to comment. So this might be the very best way to do that, is say at the very top here, it's going to default show them needs your input, the ones that need their attention that need to be answered, but they can see the ones they've already answered. They can also see the ones that have been marked resolved by you. So if it's been marked resolved and it's moved over to this tab, they can still see them. They just have to turn it on. Once they do that, this is still, it's kind of like a chat thread. Just because it's marked resolved doesn't mean that it's completely locked and shut down. So they could continue to type in here and add another note. It's not going to let me actually add it because this is the preview screen, but they would be able to go in there and edit in that sense. Um, from the actual portal side, their login, not in the preview, they may have a drop down. If we've got time, I can log into the preview side or the portal side and show that one there. But if nothing else, they can just add another comment here and it'll come into you.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good mention there. That is the last question that we have queued up at least. So from here, feel free to add your questions, whether they're client portal related or other feature related. But one thing I wanted to show here, Jody, that we didn't have in the slides was, do you mind doing a quick demo on assignable questions? That's still one that we get a lot of
Yes.
questions about. So if there's a little lull after assignable questions, then we'll log in, show what editing looks like, that sort of thing. But I want to make sure that we cover that since we've heard a lot of questions in the community about assignable questions.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 seconds here. All right. So for assignable questions, when this might come in handy is if you have multiple contacts for one client and different people do different things. Maybe there's one admin assistant that is the one that pulls all of the bank statements for you, but she can't help with the details of what a specific transaction should be coded as. So maybe your primary contact is the one that helps you with all the coding of transactions. Maybe another client is the one that helps gather documents, that kind of thing. So if that's the case, and they don't want to be able to see the other person's questions, here on your portal settings, you can enable assignable questions. If you do this, keep in mind that if there's no one assigned, nobody will see it. It has to have a contact assigned to them for it to be added to any of the portals. So if we preview in here again, you'll see that Frank has 11 non-transaction questions assigned to him. Now, if he gets to one and he realizes that this isn't for me, this needs to go to Jane, he can click the reassign button and select Jane, and then this question will be moved off of his portal and put into her portal. You can also do this on your end as well. If you need to reassign, you can always do that on your side of that. Um, Reoccurring questions, if you have assignable questions turned on, you will also be able to and need to select whose account is that going to. Now, another benefit of the assignable questions is that if Frank is caught up and he's answered all of his questions, he's not going to get any reminders. But if Jane still has questions outstanding, she will, even though they're on the same client. It's based on that individual's login and their assigned questions. So hopefully that answers a little bit more about the assignable questions. Is there anything else you want to highlight?
Yeah, that was a great overview. I think the only other thing that I want to mention is on the client side, if you have assignable questions turned on, they can reassign. So they
Yes.
can say, I have no earthly idea, please ask Frank, without having to comment that back. Then you have to go back in and switch that. There is a reassign button. So if this is a larger account that you know you're going to have assignable questions turned on, or you turn that on later retroactively, this is one that you may want to do a quick loom or something like that to show and highlight what that looks like, just to make sure that they're not adding more work onto your plate by saying, hey, please reassign to this person when they have that option internally. But I really love that this is rolled out with 2.0 simply because we can assign based on the knowledge that we have, but the team can go back and forth on the ground if there is something that they're not sure about.
And I did log into the portal, so I can highlight that real quick here.
Yeah, go ahead and then I'll queue up some for right after when you get done with that.
Yeah. So this is not a preview. This is actually logged in to the portal as a client. And you'll see they've got an action required tab here that's saying these are the ones that you need to go to. I need your help with these specific things. They can tab through. Um, as far as editing, it does not have an edit button. So if they answered something, let me see if there's anything with a comment. I don't know anything has a comment on this, but it does give you that ability to add additional information, add more files, add more comments. So you'll be able to have that there.
And I would not be surprised if there's not a feature request out there for being able to edit questions, especially with the new portal rollout. So that may be one thing that you either look in Canny, or I'll look in Canny and release that with the recording if anybody wants to go back and kind of upvote and see when that changes. So going back to that
Oh,
question,
there it is.
short answer. Oh, there we go. I was
There
gonna
it is.
say, I
I was like, none
feel
of them
like
had a
this was
comment on
part
it.
of there.
Yeah, so there's the comment. They can click on the little ellipses here to actually edit that specific comment. Again, there's always the option to just continue commenting as if it were a chat thread as well.
Yep, so Debbie
So,
does
yep,
look like they'll have a little ellipses when they comment. That's probably your key there.
yep.
Alrighty, next queued up. This is shifting gears a little bit, Jody. How do we archive a client? And then once we've archived, how do we reconnect them if we want to? So I'll let you go in there and then I may pop in with a couple of tips and stuff as we're going along.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Trying to figure out which one. Do you have a preference on which demo I use here?
You can do new to me. That's perfectly fine.
Okay. So in order to archive or even delete, if that's what you're wanting to do, you have to do that from the client list here. You're going to use this little caret off to the side that's going to show you more information. This is also where you can see all historical closes. So by default, your client list is going to show the most recent close, but you can use this drop down here to expand out to see more. And if you scroll over to the right, you're going to have the ability to delete a close, but you also have something for the client as a whole. So client options, drop down here, you can choose to archive or delete. Deleting is going to permanently remove it from the system. Archiving it just kind of shuts everything down, marks all tasks as closed, and disconnects them on the back end from the accounting software. So you can do this, hit click or archive client, and it's got to refresh. And now that client is disconnected. It's archived. Everything is saved over there. There's no open tasks anymore. Now, if this client comes back and you're like, okay, I need to bring them back on board. I need them back in my mix here and I need to reconnect them. You'll come up to your practice settings. You'll go to your all client settings, go to the archived clients tab, and then you will click to reactivate the client. And this is going to let you know that it's re-enabling all of the features as well. So unarchive, let it redo. And then just like with any client, you would go in, open it up, and then you would use the Connect Ledger button here at the top and select which accounting software you want to reconnect them to.
Yep, couple of things to note here. So, biggest difference between archiving and deleting is, do I want that log of questions and answers and tasks that I've completed and things like that?
Time tracking that's been associated with that
Oh,
client, all of
yes,
those
'cause
nuances.
that will get removed if it's deleted, right? There's nothing to reference back to because the client doesn't exist, right? So that's kind of the biggest difference there. Archiving will stop billing. So if that's something that you're concerned about, that definitely will still work with archiving. The other thing I want to mention is occasionally we have seen people who archive and then they still show up on the client list, and you're like, what the heck? I already archived it. Why is it still in my face? So in our settings, if that's going on for you, go to archive clients, and there is a show archived clients at the very top. Sometimes this is checked by default. So if you archive and it shows up, that client still shows up, but it's like a gray line that you can't click on because it's archived. This is what we want to go in and click and adjust to make sure that our client list is only active clients. Or if you are one that wants the archive clients to show on your client list, this is where we can make that preference known and set our default there. Thanks for popping into there, Jody. I really appreciate it. Alrighty, next up, Miss Christie. So in the client portal, I just noticed the tax return tab. So that's in Growth Custom. I think that's where we have that turned on, Jody.
Yeah.
Does that appear when you have the tax organizer or tax suite? And then are you able to change the title of that tab? So let's break this one down. That tax return tab will only show if one, you have the tax suite on your whole Keeper account, and two, you have turned tax return on for this client. So those are kind of the two pieces that need to be in place for that tab to show up. And then from
So
there,
wait,
I
I'm gonna
don't.
pause you
Yep,
because what I
please go
what I
ahead.
wanted to show real quick was we have that turned on. The tax return is turned on. It's being used and utilized for growth custom landscaping. This contact has multiple entities that they have access to. When I toggle to a different one, Mountain Landscape does not have an active tax return. The tax return is not being used for that client. So that tab does not even exist on that one. So even within the same client contact, if they are going between different client accounts, it will change based on that client account.
No, I loved it that you showed the difference there. That's really important. Um, so Christy, that's kind of the why or when does this show up. So that's kind of that. And then are we able to change the title of that tab? Not that I know of. That might be one that we look for a canny on in case tax returns is not really the verbiage that you want to use there. So I haven't seen that as an editable field yet, but that is something that we'll probably want to make a feature request because that's a really good idea. Alrighty. Next up, so this is about the assignable questions. Can we set a default, like if we don't assign it, this is who it defaults to? I absolutely love that feature request. It is not built in at this point, so that's one that we'll want to look for a canny on. If there's not one out there, I will absolutely put that in there and list it in my recording because I absolutely love that idea of, hey, default to this person and then I can choose on the back end if it needs to go to somebody else. So you can have kind of a primary contact set for that client. So really good idea, not implemented yet. So we'll look for a feature request on that one. Ready for the next one, Jody?
Yeah.
Okay, so Renata has a question, a little bit more basic, which I love. We're all about like, let's not go too far too fast, and let's make sure everybody feels good and is able to ask questions. So, where should I put tasks that are specific to each client? So, I'm going to clarify really quick that if there are tasks or questions that are for the clients, like actions we need them to take, we would add them in as non-transaction questions on the client portal. Okay, so that's when we would use that use case. If they are tasks for us that needs to happen specifically for that client, I'll let you take that one, Jody.
Okay.
But just want to make sure that was super clear
Yes.
because sometimes that gets really confusing.
No, that's good. Okay, so we're talking about tasks that we as the bookkeeper need to complete for the client work that we're doing. There are different ways and places that you can put these in here. We're able to add custom tasks anywhere or just about anywhere in here. Another favorite feature, real quick, I'm going to collapse all to minimize the amount that we're looking at on the page. I love that feature so that you can zero in on really what you want to look for. So the client page is broken up into two sections. We've got custom tasks, and then we have tasks for whatever the close period is that we're in. Within the close period, we have custom sections. So within that, pre-close is one of those where you can add a custom task. So anything that is client specific, you can add that in here if it's something that you're doing as your regular part of your regular close. This may also be where you want to house monthly tasks. If your close period is a monthly close period, perhaps you want to keep monthly tasks down here as well because they will repeat with every close period. So they'll match that cadence there. If it's a task that has a different frequency for when it needs to be completed, whether that's more or less frequently than you're actually closing the client, then the best place for those to live is here in your custom tasks area. Within custom tasks, you can also have a variety of sections. By default, you will have a general section here at the top, and this can be a catch-all for anything that's client specific, for anything that might be a one-off task for them, for anything that needs to recur more or less frequently than you close the client. And within here, you can add that task. Then you can come and set a recurring due date. With these custom tasks, if you do not set a due date, and it needs to be something that is repeated on a basis on a set frequency. If there's no due date and no recurrence set up, you check it off, it's going to move to the completed tab. It's a one and done. In the close section down here, it will repeat by default with every close period. But anything up here in the custom tasks must have a due date and recurrence set if you want it to repeat.
Yeah,
So
if
that's just
it's
one
not like a
clarifier there.
one-off task, like a
Right, if it's
onboarding
not
where
a
you do it
one-off.
once you're done. Um,
Yeah.
so really great explanation there, Jody. Just kind of summary on that, Renata. So you have lots of options when it comes to client-specific tasks. That can be a custom task if it's going to go on its own frequency. If it's part of your close, I would definitely recommend adding it to something like pre-close or additional items down at the bottom, just so you don't have to worry about setting that frequency. Yeah. All right. Jody, we are getting close on time. So wanna
Yes.
let everybody know we will answer any questions that come in past here, even if we have to go a little bit past the top of the hour. So don't stress if you do have a question still lingering. But for anybody that has to hop off the call, I want to make sure you guys have some next steps. So we have tons of free resources if you are all about the freebies and just want to learn everything you can about Keeper. So our YouTube channel has any previous Q&A recordings. If we covered something last month that you were like, oh, I've been wondering about this, you can check out that recording. And then we do these on a different topic every month. So you're always welcome to come join live, ask questions, that sort of thing. And we do have some PDFs that have similar kind of concept to this of what can I do with tags, or what can I do to customize the client portal, or what can I do with this or that, just to give you some more inspiration. Because we've been in so many different Keeper accounts, we want to make it easy for everybody to know what's out there and what you can do with Keeper. So we've got lots of freebies here. But if you fall in the camp of either I don't have time, I don't want to do any of this, or I just don't know what I don't know, then we do have additional support all the way from just doing the team training and making sure everybody knows how to navigate Keeper, all the way up to, hey, I'll give you any information I know in my head about my clients, but I don't want to set a single thing up. So full spectrum here, just to meet you where you are and take the lift off of your shoulders, even if that's just kind of a collaborative effort. So lots of options here. Definitely reach out to us if you have any questions, you're looking for best practices, anything like that. But with that, let's hop back into questions if you don't mind hopping back into the
All right.
demo, Jody. Thank you. Thank you. So Heather, lovely question. So do you get a notification if you've assigned questions to a specific employee or contact, and that employee leaves the company or the portal? This is a really interesting question that I don't know that we've really gotten before. So we'll kind of noodle on this and get the best answer out that we can. Jody, what's your initial on this one?
So my first thought is this is if their email address becomes invalid and does not work, you will get a notification that the email has failed. So if you have the automatic reminders set up to go out and this particular contact has left the company and their email address no longer works, it's going to bounce and you'll get a notification that says that this didn't work. In which case you can be like, hey, wait a minute. Who should these be going to? You can reach out to your client, get their contact information set up. Outside of that, if their email address is still working, maybe it's being
Active.
forwarded to somebody else, that kind of thing, you're not going to get any kind of notification as long as that email address is still working.
Yeah, because Keeper will only flag you if it can't deliver that email. If it's getting
Yep.
delivered to a random inbox, or to somebody else, then from Keeper's standpoint, there's no reason for it to know on the back end that anything's different. So that's one that we'll just want to keep really good communication with our clients about, hey, if somebody has left, there's likely questions in the client portal that I've asked them that I do not want to get lost. So please write in with a question for us or something like that to let me know as employees change. Alrighty, good question there. Next up, Catherine asks, is there an audit trail showing when clients edit their responses or what the changes are? It's a really good question.
That is a good question. Let me see if I've got the client portal open. Let me edit this and we'll do a quick check.
This is one of
All right.
those when there was a 1 and 2 version, I could have told you that 1 definitely didn't, but now we'll have to test it to see what that actually
Nope.
looks like.
Does not look like it
On the client
on
portal
here. So
side, can
let's
you
look
go?
in. Yeah, let's look in
Yeah.
here. Where did I do? Well, no, let me look on the side. Client
Yeah, on the
communication.
maybe the question itself.
Was it in this one? This was, did I do that on a different
I think it
client?
was Mountain.
Oh, I hit the wrong button. I've had happy fingers today. They've been clicking away at things I don't want
Goes
them
slightly too fast.
to. All right, let's take a look here and see if it shows us. Nope. It just shows the final.
So the current answer. That's one that I would
And
definitely
the
throw in.
timestamp, to
Yeah.
note, the timestamp shows the original timestamp
Hmm. Okay, good to know.
because I just edited a couple seconds ago.
Yeah, exactly. And it does show the current answer, like
Yes.
the most recent edit. But it looks like that timestamp is based on their initial answer. So, Catherine, that may be one if there's not already one out there that we want to make a feature request for, just because that audit log or being able to see the adjustments there would be very helpful for your own paper trail behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving along. This is a quality control section question here for you, Jody, so you know where to go on the page. So, what are you guys including under quality control? And let's start with that. There's a secondary question, but I'll let you kind of cover that one first.
It varies. So let me get back to Growth Custom. It has our full template build out in there. So it's basically what part of the process needs to be QC'd. In this example here, we've got a task to review all of Keeper. Did all the tasks get completed? Did all the reports underneath those tasks get reviewed and processed? Then it has a review of the document management platform that the client's using. Is everything within that processed and done completely? And then we do have a checklist of the some things to check on within the accounting software, places to go, things to look at to make sure that the close has been done completely. And then within that, that's also where we house the, okay, now that the QC is complete, everything's ready to go. Let's publish the financials. Let's update the status if we need to. Or I've also seen things in here of notifications or reminders to schedule meetings to review the financials with the client, that kind of thing. But anything in here that you want as a separate, this we've seen it being used as a separate space for the reviewers tasks. Now with sign-offs and stuff like that added in, it might be used a little differently. Some people may not use a section like this at all. It is a custom section that we added, um, just to note that as well.
Yeah, really good mention there, Jody. And to kind of fill in the second part of this question, if there are things that you don't really want in your global template for every single client, but there's like text for this client as an example, or there's something that you need to double check on the loan or the sales tax or something like that, couple of options. So you can always, in this client page, hit add task just for this client. Okay, so that's something that we could add on this page if it's just for one. The other option that I'm a little bit more likely to use is creating a template that just has some of those pieces, but that doesn't affect our global template. So let's say I have a global general all the way through month end, including QC template. But there's other clients that I have Dext. So I want to be able to layer on both if I need them, but I don't want Dext to be in my global because I don't want to have to delete it every single time a client doesn't have Dext. So templates are, especially task templates, are fun simply because you can create a variance that you can layer on. So payroll review or Dex or something like that is something that we can create a template just for that and layer on, but we don't have to have it in our global. So hopefully that gives context about what could be under quality control, because that's very, very flexible. But then in addition to that, we can add them as a one-off inside this client, or we could create a template that's for these types of clients so that we have them in case we get another client that has a similar process. Alrighty. Next up, so how do you set a notification for when a preparer has completed their portion of the close and it's ready to go to the reviewer? So definitely showing my nerdy side. This is one of my favorite, like tiny little features that is not gonna make or break Keeper, but it's really cool. So Jody, I'll let you dive into the settings and show where that shows up.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to be in your practice settings. So come up here to the settings wheel, click on the practice. You're going to go to workflows on the general practice management here. And then you're going to hit close status options. Remember, this is our demo account. We have a lot of examples built in here. This is
These are all
very
coulds, not
excessive.
shoulds, and maybe you
Yes,
shouldn't have this many. So quick caveat
but
aside.
yeah, but for the one like you're talking about here, ready for the reviewer, we have ready for review. You can set a notification, set who gets that notification. So clicking into that box, you can select, I want it to go to the reviewer. We've renamed it to senior bookkeeper. So that's who would be notified. So once the client status gets changed to ready for review, whoever the senior bookkeeper is assigned to that client will get an email notification saying this client status has been updated to ready for review. And that can flag them to then go in and do their QC. You can have multiple people assigned to a notification. An example here is ready to publish. We have both the account manager and me assigned so that two people are getting notified for that one. So there's quite a bit of flexibility in here with your notifications.
Yep, absolutely. And one other could, not necessarily should. This is something that if you would rather not receive an email about that, but you would rather receive a Slack or a Microsoft Teams notification or something like that, that's absolutely something that you can set up with Zaps or Zapier. So I'm not just speaking way past everybody. So that's an option. Natively here within Keeper, you're going to get an email about that. And the
Yeah.
email will say, this client has been changed to this status. So just a pretty general, but you can go above and beyond that if you're like, please don't send me another email. My inbox is ridiculous. So that's kind of how to go about those notifications, especially internally. And this kind of fills the gap because a lot of times, like, let's say my reviewer tasks are not due until the 15th, but if somebody gets them done early, I want to be able to know so I can fit them in where it makes sense. So this is something that can kind of add that additional visibility for when those things change, and especially if that is a little bit before the due date, so we can get in here and prioritize as we're able to. Next up, oh yeah, happy to help, Jennifer. Next up, we have a questions. Are there plans to offer reporting in Excel as well? Lovely question. We don't specifically work for Keeper or know those plans intimately. Sometimes we hear murmurings behind the scenes or know that this is on the roadmap. So from a speaking for Keeper perspective, we're going to be really careful about that. I have not heard anything about being able to offer reporting in Excel. So Jody, take and riff off that if there's some ways that you can get the same kind of feel, but just on the surface, I don't know about anything that's going to be including Excel or have an integration with that.
Right, right. The only thing that I know of that's available right now that you could do is when you're reviewing your financial statements in Keeper, you can export it. So you could export to Excel if you want to. And if you have it expanded down to the payee level, that also will export out if you need it. So that's the only thing is when it comes to Excel that I know of that's available is just being able to export them based on what you set up here in the review section. Now, when you're in your reporting side where you can publish financials to the portal, you don't have the option here to do anything with Excel. The only option you do have is when you click on publish, you can upload and publish your own custom report, uh, but you only can select one file. And it may have to be a PDF of it. So that may not be a good solution for Excel files. Um,
The other
yeah.
option I can think about is sometimes with metrics, you could create a little table or something that kind of replicates Excel in some way. So not short answer, no, at this point in time. Definitely one to include a feature request so that the team knows it's on your radar or something that you would like to see. There are ways to export things within Keeper to get them easier to convert to Excel or to be able to get it back into your client portal if you've done an elaborate spreadsheet in Excel and want to bring it back over and publish in the client portal. Okay, beautiful. Last question that I'm seeing, Chrissy, love your totally off topic question, so happy to answer. Um, for anybody wanting to use the email feature, this is something that we've had a lot of requests for, so we will go ahead and plan on a bit of a workshop or something like that that's a little bit more in depth, or maybe our next Q&A or something like that. We've got a couple other topics queued up that we're pretty excited about, but I know that the email is one that a lot of people are like, okay, cool in concept. I don't know what it actually looks like or feels like to use it. I don't know if it's good enough for me to start it, if I don't like it, that sort of thing. So we'll definitely do a deep dive in some form or fashion. But you've got a really great question about if your emails are hosted in like Bluehost or something like that, that is not one of the supported Microsoft or Outlook. Jody, do you have any workarounds that you've heard in the grapevine for that?
I have not yet. No.
Okay. I haven't either. So, Christy, we'll do a little bit of digging behind the scenes and shoot you an email in case there is something that we're missing. There may be something like being able to forward it from Bluehost over to a Gmail so that Keeper can see it as a workaround or something like that. But we'll look behind the scenes. And then I know there's a couple people that we're very excited about being able to see emails and what those look like. So we'll definitely put it on our list for the short list of presentations or Q&As that we'll do here soon. All right. You're totally fine, Gila, don't worry. Glad that you got it in. So one more question in here. Is there a way to delete, not archive, but actually delete emails from the inbox? I believe that answer is no currently. I think the only options that you have are to actually archive. And that archive will also show up in Gmail. So it's going to mirror that. But from what I understand, there's not the option to delete. I'll shoot out a little blurb if I find out that's not the case now, or there's been a recent update. But last time I was on that catch up with Keeper, I asked that question specifically, and it was one that is not within the current capabilities. So great question. Alrighty, folks, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there because we could talk about Keeper literally all day and often do. So we'll give everybody their day back. Just as a reminder, recording, slides, any canny requests that we found, any research that we did, and updates on answers that we gave will all be released on Friday. So you guys will all get that. Definitely email in if you don't see it come through and you're like, I really wanted that recording and it didn't come through. I gotcha. We'll make sure all the back end works out on that. But otherwise, thank you so much for spending some of your Wednesday with us. We always appreciate the chance to just gush about our favorite software. But we hope that you were able to find a little tip or trick along the way that will help Keeper feel a little bit more smooth, especially on this client portal side.
Hey, Erica,
Yes.
is your YouTube channel? Oh, never mind. I just found it.
Yeah, you're good. It's at Hughes and Strong, so
Got
it
it.
should be super easy to find.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, great question.
All
All
right.
right, we will
Bye.
see you guys all very soon. Hope that you have a lovely rest of your Wednesday.
You too.
Bye, everyone.